Black Myth Wukong is the best game to release of 2024, in my opinion, and I was definitely disappointed that at the Game Awards it did not get Game of the Year. I did like Astrobot, don't get me wrong, though it wasn't on the same level as Wukong, but now at the Steam Awards, it has swept, which is fantastic to see. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, while there were a lot of bad video games to release this year, there were also a lot of really solid ones. Space Marine, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Princess Peach Showtime. You had other titles like Helldivers 2, and also Stellar Blade, and most importantly, Wukong. I thought it was a super solid experience that could go against my previous Game of the Year winners, like Elden Ring or Final Fantasy 16, but now it has swept the Steam Awards, which is just super cool. So this is a Tech for Gamers article. It says Game Science's debut AAA title Black Myth Wukong wins the Steam Game of the Year Awards for 2024. Player reception on Steam has been overwhelmingly positive, with a 96% positive rating from 800,000 reviews. And if we just take a quick peek at the player counts, it's no shocker to see why this won, why this swept. 2,415,714 players at release, and even in game right now is 25,000, which is still pretty good. Again, it's a single player game. This happens with all of them. People initially play it, then they finish it, and they come back when there's some kind of DLC or there's some kind of update. 24-hour peak though, 77,000. Pretty freaking solid. That's rather close to Dragon Age the Veilguard's all-time peak, so that's funny to see. Though we're talking about millions and millions of gamers who love this, and that's not even taking into consideration other platforms. This is why we were so shocked that Wukong did not win Game of the Year at the Game Awards, but it wasn't really all that crazy, because we're talking about shills within the industry who trashed this game. I mean, before release, you had IGN putting out hit pieces saying the developers were sexists and terrible people, and then other outlets ended up running with that, like PC Gamers and Forbes, and while there was never any proof of these allegations, IGN's claims were what the media was running with and what they believed. And when the media counts for 90% of the vote at the Game Awards, well, we all knew Wukong wasn't going to win. And Astrobot's a really good game, do not get me wrong, but Astrobot is not on the same level, in my opinion. But this article says it has won Steam's Game of the Year for 2024, and the game has been a massive success for Game Science, and it's impressive considering it was the studio's first ever AAA title. It's not that shocking, given they are Chinese video game industry veterans that formed this studio. They had a lot of funding. Like, it's not that much of a shocker to see that they were going to be successful with this game's release. I remember years ago when the media was saying, this doesn't even look like a real game. I don't even think this game is going to come out. And of course, we were all very, very impressed with what they created. But on Steam, it of course hit over 2.4 million players at once shortly after launch, breaking records for the single-player games on the platform. Funny enough, the game received mixed reviews from critics. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10, appreciating its combat and boss design, but pointing out technical issues and, of course, pointing out the sexism allegations. And on the other hand, Screen Rant gave it a 6 out of 10 because it lacked, quote, inclusivity and diversity. And Screen Rant is on the media list at the Game Awards, so their 6 out of 10 clearly made a difference, though now, of course, gamers can point and laugh because it just shows how gamers truly feel. I mean, at the Game Awards, Wukong did win the player's voice, which is, in my opinion, the most important. And clearly the players have spoken, so there were quite a few really great games to release this year. The finalists were Space Marine 2, Black Myth Wukong, Stalker 2, Balatro, and Helldivers 2, but it's honestly kind of mean to put a game like Balatro against Wukong. I've heard that it's really good. I'm really glad that indies are getting a bit of representation on this list, but Wukong is just a step above every other game to release this year. Again, in my opinion, but it also swept at the awards. So just taking a quick peek, it of course got Game of the Year, Best Game You Suck At, which is hilarious given the speech that the devs gave at Keeley's show, and Outstanding Story Rich Game, which is really great. But now, of course, gamers are roasting Keeley's show and also Journos. There are some people who are saying there have been better games to release in the past, which I would agree with. I think that Elden Ring in totality, the base game and also the DLC, is still better than Wukong, though. I've gotta be honest, Wukong is very, very close in score. Balatro clear still. I definitely disagree because Astrobot wasn't there, which is funny to see because, yeah, I mean, these people were saying, oh, well, you know what? Astrobots at this award show, you guys are going to clearly have the Steam show. But now that the Steam Awards have passed and we know that Wukong won, they're changing their tune saying, oh, Astrobot would still sweep if it was there, which definitely isn't the case. I'm so glad that gamers won again. This is what happens when Sony isn't in the pockets of an award show. And there is a little bit of divide here for sure. I'm not gonna say that there isn't. There's even people saying something like Shadow of the Erdtree is still better, and I thought Erdtree was fantastic. But I am glad to see Wukong actually winning, and clearly, judging by player numbers, Wukong was, going to sweep. I mean, we haven't heard about a game that has done better this year. We haven't seen any player numbers that were better this year. Maybe between all of the console releases and the Steam release for another game, it was a possibility, like with Erdtree, for example. Oh, well, maybe once you actually look at all of those numbers in totality, it would have been better than this, but you could say the same thing just about Wukong as well. And there are a lot of Chinese players who clearly showed up to support developers from their region, which is cool to see. But this just speaks, miles about the state of the industry and how there are a lot of gamers who are sick and tired of Western developers bullshit, and they are looking to other regions for games. I've talked about Korean devs a lot this year. There are a lot of studios from South Korea who have said we've seen a boom in business because there are gamers who are looking away from the Western market. Same with Japanese developers, also Chinese devs, and I'm just happy to see Wukong actually getting a big, big W here. I think it deserves it. And I do think, again, there are good games on this list. Like, I really did enjoy Space Marine 2. Stalker 2 was fun, though it was pretty broken. If it was less broken, I would have had a better time with it. Helldivers 2 was really good, though Sony did kill a lot of the hype that game had with the PSN network requirement bullshit. And then Balatro, I've heard a lot of good about, but I just don't think Balatro could have ever stood against a Space Marine 2 or even a Black Myth Wukong. So I'm glad to see that this is happening. I'm sure over the next few days, we're going to see some meltdowns from people who are coping and seething over the fact that this game won, but it really deserves all of the praise that it's getting. But that's all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.